should pick up. Pick up.
Seriously?
And it looks like we're out. Are we going live?
I can hear your echo. I can hear your echo. And myself.
Yes, caller. Please turn down your radio.
Yes, that would be you.
For everybody in the chat, we are a few minutes behind, and it's not Andy's fault. It is completely on our side. Blame Dylan. All right. Is that true? Are you on the forums right now?
Me? No.
Yes.
I don't have a... I'm actually trying to create an account on Justin TV, and apparently every single username is taken.
There are Z-Man impersonators?
Apparently there are other Z-Men. And apparently I have to watch a video to get the capture. There are now ads everywhere. Hopefully I'm now showing up as the Z-Man in the chat.
Yep, looks like it. Everybody in the same... Everybody go Firefox this time? Or do we have some Firefox and some IE?
I am in Chrome.
Oh, you're in Chrome? Last week we had some weird issue where like the IE people couldn't see the Firefox people in chat. I have no idea what the hell that was about, but yeah, I'm in Firefox as well. Fuckers, I accidentally clicked the upgrade to 5. Broke some of my damn extensions.
I'm guessing the IE guys are in a different room, which is pretty cool. So is Dylan joining us or on the phone?
No, he's gonna be here. Cicely's putting Jasmine down to sleep. She's up a little late, and then Dylan, of all people, had a social engagement prior to the show. He's the most introverted person in the world, and yet I have to wait on his social schedule now.
Maybe it was Introverts Anonymous or something like that.
Yeah, he never is forthcoming with the details.
Yeah. Maybe he's a serial killer. He's out burying bodies right now.
Well, he would have a hobby then, and I would support him. Where is... Oh, it's over there.
Whoa, you just got noisy.
Oh, I'm sorry. My chair might have hit the mic or something.
Somebody's humping your microphone, man.
That's not till later in the show. That's not the opening segment.
We don't like the lead with the headliner.
Oh, I didn't turn yours on. You need to...
Oh, I can hear her.
He's got very good microphones.
So do you know how many viewers? Can you see how many viewers there are? Or is it just the people that logged in that we can see?
I show 12 right now.
Yeah. So John from Exado Studios is actually logged in as well. So if there's any questions about the game I can't answer, I'll defer them to him. Who else we got?
We got Bob from Sunburn.
Bob the Builder. We should sing the song. Bob the Builder, can we fix it? I hope you guys know who Bob the Builder is.
Builder.
Yes,
Okay.
I know who he is.
He's John. Bob the Sea Builder is really John. John at Sunburn.
I need to ask him where that name came from. What is the Bob the Sea Builder?
I think Sea Builder, was that a old Moreland product?
I don't know. John, you going to tell us where it came from? He's not listening, is he? Let's hope he's actually fixing some bugs or something while he's listening.
Yes, Moreland C++ Builder. Yep.
Oh, there we go.
I can't remember, but back in the day, I don't remember which was which, but Microsoft and Borland had a difference. One of them indexed the screen starting at 1.1, and the other one indexed the screen started at 0.0. Your volume's up there, dear.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I don't need to hear myself. I know I'm important.
So what you're telling me there, Michael, is that some of them were VB programmers and some of them were C programmers, right?
Yeah, but I just don't know which was which.
VB starts at 1. Well, VB used to. Oh, there you go. Mr. Borland says strings began at 1.
Borland was okay. So Borland was the one that started at 1. Yeah, I got my introduction to compiler macros to handle code that did that. Because we used Borland in class, but I was using Microsoft tools at home. Come on, Dylan. We're giving you a few more minutes here.
He types like me.
Who, Andy? Types violently? Is that what you're saying?
Is my microphone good enough that you can hear me type?
Yes, it sounds you're stabbing in the keyboard in the face.
Yes. I'm a terrible typist. I could really get away with probably 2 fingers on each hand and my thumb.
That's basically how I type.
Tonight I'm drinking a Tap Room number 21 Brewing Company.
It looked interesting.
Amber Ale. Yeah, it does.
My beer didn't arrive, Michael. Did you send it?
I'm sorry, UPS doesn't run this late.
That's not good.
Except for with bribes, but it costs too much.
I'm just sitting here with a Pepsi. Every time I say Pepsi, I get $1, apparently.
Dear Lord. Pepsi? Come on now.
Did you listen to the latest Bombcast?
No.
Oh, they were going off on RC Cola.
Why they got against RC Cola?
No. They were just constantly going like, when I like the game, I just like to have a good RC Cola. You know, I can never. And then they were actually putting the Twitter, like I'm hanging with my friend at RC Cola and. They went to the California Extreme. Have you ever gone to that, Andy?
No, where is that?
Somewhere in California. I have no idea. It's all the same state to me, but
you do realize that just because I'm on the West Coast doesn't mean I live in California. There's at least 3 states on the West Coast.
Yes, but you're within driving distance of the 2 largest states.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
driving distance meaning 2 days.
Yeah, I've visited there for consulting projects, and I've flown out. Then I kind of realized like, oh, holy shit! It takes forever to fucking drive to California. I just assumed like one San whatever city was right next to the other one.
Where is brightness? There it is.
Like Los Angeles and Silicon Valley were like a stone's throw away. But I'm not sure where it's held, but it's a convention. It's a community convention of arcade cabinet owners, and they all bring out their arcade cabinets and buy and sell arcade cabinets. And I was listening to them, and these things apparently sell for like $200 a piece. You can go get a Dig Dug machine or whatever you want for a couple $100 because. Transporting them apparently is such a pain in the ass. Most people, they don't buy them.
Yes, indeed.
I was thinking about picking one up, but then I was like, I couldn't ship it. There's no way I could afford the shipping on it. And that CRT would never survive making it to Knoxville.
So where's your buddy Dylan? I mean, come on, man. This is...
He said he had an event with a birthday.
Did he say it was a birthday?
It was a birthday.
Okay. He did send me a text a little bit ago that he was on his way here.
From where?
See, now what sucks is I can't do... Or unless Andy wants to jump in. I don't know if you want to jump in and do the sunburn to kick off the show.
Sure. What are we talking about? Sunburn's great.
I had have you listened to the ads on the show?
I have indeed. You need me to ad-lib the other half of your script? Is that what you want?
There's no script. There's 100%.
Oh, okay. Well, let's hit it then.
Would be a step up.
All right. Yeah, what I got queued up here is John just did his post on the advanced static lighting. Did you
yes,
see?
Indeed. I glanced at it today, but I haven't really had a chance to... Who's turned their sound up?
Are you hearing something or extra again?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's gone now.
Wait. I want my sound up. How do I make fonts bigger? in...
It's Open Apple something.
It's always Open Apple something.
Plus?
It's never closed Apple.
Try Open Apple Plus.
There we go.
Yay!
All right.
I pulled that one from...
Are you ready, Andy? We'll just
Sure.
go with it, and where it goes, it goes. And at this point, John would have shut us down if we were going too far off, I think. So, to have some fun with it. Hey, Andy.
Hey, Michael.
You know, Andy, do you hate it when a framework just kind of lays there? Like, it doesn't do anything. It's not moving, you know? You're doing all the work.
You mean it's just not sexy?
Yeah, just making you have to, you know, like, do something. The guys over at Sunburn there, at Synapse Gaming with the Sunburn Gaming Engine, they are constantly updating that framework. It has a little wiggle. You know, when you're building code on top of the Sunburn framework, it's wiggling around there for you and adding new features.
Yeah, oh yeah, every time I put a bug in, I'm pretty sure they fix bugs just for me. I think about 30% of that product is bugs that are fixed purely for my game.
They also constantly ship new versions, and they have an early adopter version of the engine to where you can grab these and incorporate them into your game, and they just added a whole bunch of advanced static lighting features. Now, you've used some of the Sunburn engine and some of the light mapping. Have you gotten into any of that?
I have not. Everything that I use in my game is dynamic lighting. The static lighting is much more effective for things like the phone where there aren't any shaders. So I have not used that part yet. Something I'm looking forward to.
So if you haven't used light mapping and such, the basic idea is that you have your 3D object and you have a nice, wonderful brick texture around that object, and then you throw lighting on it, and it reveals that it's really just a flat with the pretty brick texture on it. And you can add a light map to it that lets Sunburn know that, hey, these bricks, you should fake them to make them look like they're actually 3D protruding bricks, and then it will light them accordingly. And the cool thing with static lighting is that it does all of this, pretty much, analogies you can just say it does it all at build time, crunches all the numbers, figures out all the lighting, and then you don't have to waste any of your precious 512 megabytes and CPU power on the Xbox 360 adding these lighting features and just giving a whole wonderful 3D textured effect.
So one thing you might want to point out there, Michael, is that actually it will increase your amount of memory because you're pre-calculating, and that means it's going to actually generate a lot of textures. So typical trade-off that you're getting here is you're pre-calculating, but you increase the amount of stuff you've got to store. So it's a very typical optimization technique that you're trading CPU for memory and disk space here. So
you are correct. Thank you for correcting that, because I would have blown my next point to say that you can create the light map texture anywhere from 64 by 64 to 124 by 124. So you can go in really light, and the guys over at Synapse have tested this stuff and basically said it boils down to a 6.5% size increase to the light maps when you use some of this new features that they just added in the Sunburn 2.0 engine. So
the really cool stuff I think they've just added is that the bump maps are now baked in. So you can now pre-generate the bump maps. So again, on the phone, or if you don't want to be using a lot of GPU, you can just pre-generate those and it'll store them out as texture files somewhere. And now you've got nice bump maps, and you can see the pictures on the site. They're pretty cool.
They are. I'll have a link to in the show notes. Everyone else, you can go check out synapsegaming.com. All right. So that was admittedly rough, but
I thought it was pretty good for my first take.
Yeah, it was more accurate and informative than most of our takes. We're still learning. Hey everyone, welcome to the GameMarx podcast. The other person there on the end is Andy Dunn, better known as the Z-Man. Welcome to the show, Andy.
Thank you, Michael.
Now, you have worked on a number of games, but it's quite hard to figure out what games you work on because you're, I guess, are you bringing in as a consultant? Are you building the entire games? Are you working with other teams?
It depends. The only game that I am fully responsible for is Kissy Poo, the best game for under fives on the indie game platform. George and I did that one together. George, the other MVP. And so that was...
Well, there's
that
more
was
than just you and George, right?
Well, George and I did all the coding, and George did the singing, and George's wife eventually took George's programmer art and made it proper art. George's wife, Shauna, she's a big scrapbooker and does a lot of online scrapbooking. And so she took George's art, which I thought was pretty good for a developer, and she turned it into something that looked much better. So she did that art. So there was really 3 people involved in it. And then George's kids helped with all the testing and all the little giggling noises and funny noises in the background. George stuck a microphone in front of them, and they recorded it over an afternoon. And then George sang, as you well know. And so we put that one all together. That was the only one that I wasn't hired to program.
We've had Jasmine playing it. She will watch it. She hasn't quite connected. I can do stuff on the controller, and that does stuff on the TV.
She has connected that the controller does stuff to the TV, but she hasn't figured out how it does it to the TV.
Yeah, it's no iPad.
How old is she?
She is about 8 months now.
A little outside our demographic, but...
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the
But
way
you
she
hit
uses
the
the
ele-
iPad, she's going to be up there quick, and as soon as she can hold that controller and do that, she's going to do a GameMarx review of Kissy Poo.
Yes, and the 11-year-old in the house has played the game, has trialed the game a number of times, mostly because she wants to do the dance time.
The current record for older children to play Keep Away is 47 seconds.
47 seconds, and then they're done?
No, so we added a mode in there. So George noticed that his older kids didn't want to admit that they liked to play the game because it was a baby's game. However, when he wasn't looking, they kind of invented their own game of Keep Away. And so if you start Kissy Poo and you don't kiss the animals, I think after 5 seconds they turn into ghosts, which just means they change color, and a little timer comes on. And it's not documented anywhere, but it does keep a high score of who got the longest. So what we discovered was the older kids, once they discover Keep Away is there, they just would like to play that because they could beat each other's score there. And it's reasonably easy to get between 30 and 40 seconds. It's pretty hard to get over 40 seconds. And
Now,
I
have
managed
to
to...
ask. I have to ask, did you reveal this play mode in playtest?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
We want people to test it, and I had my high score of 47 seconds, so nobody's emailed me to say they beat it yet. In fact, I can't come close anymore, so it was the luck of the draw. It's a very random game.
I'll have to check that out. So one of the things I wanted to talk with you on the show about is, as I've said several times on the show, I stalk a lot of the forums and lurk a lot. I try to post less now. It's good for my blood pressure. It's good for the MVP's blood pressure. It's better for everyone when I don't engage.
I don't believe I've ever deleted one of your posts.
Have you been tempted?
He's moved several, though.
I've actually never been tempted because, for the most part, you're professional and correct in what you say.
But I have had several. I'm going to give you a new thread posts.
Oh yes, if you may have been split off if you go off topic, so that's fair enough.
Now, the last time that did that, though, you admitted that you took it off topic. I just played with it. That was the 5 million.
Yeah,
sales.
when you have 25,000 posts, you're allowed to talk off topic. The rest of you aren't.
Oh, so something to shoot for.
Yes,
okay.
when you've got as many posts as me, you can do whatever you like. That's the rule.
And by the way, now that I have an MVP on there, I've said this on this podcast several times, but I just want to say it again. And for an MVP, hats off to what you guys do. I think it's shit that Microsoft doesn't moderate the forums like they do in every other, MSDN forums and things like that. That they make you guys have to be the bad guys sometimes.
All the time.
Nobody likes the moderator. Just
no.
Ever. And you guys, on your off time and volunteering, keep those forums useful. Because, I mean, if you weren't in there doing that, and, I do see, because I subscribe to a lot of the threads, right? So I see a lot of the posts that are gone in 20 seconds. Uh-oh, and we just lost him. We're going to see if he comes back. But I see a lot of the posts that are gone, and then, whether they're posted, and then, like, 20 seconds later, somebody's deleted them because they were just really, really bad. All right. And now we get the chirps. This happened once before. There's something between our connections that's keeping him off. And he's back online. And I probably should make time notes of these so I can edit them out of the real podcast.
Hey, we're back.
And we're back. All right. Yeah, so what I was saying was that I see some of the posts that slip through because I'm on the when you're email subscribed, you get the post kind of immediately. And then I was like, ooh, wow. And then I go see you guys have already deleted it. Like, it's not on the forums, it's gone. So thank you for that and what you guys do there. I wish you guys were a little bit more free in your time sometimes to do things many of the other MVPs get to focus on, where they get to focus on more teaching and tutorial type stuff and just having fun and answering questions. But given the state of indie games, I'm glad that you guys keep it alive.
Yeah, well, I'd still say over half my stuff in the forums is helping people. So I get my satisfaction out of doing that. It's annoying that you have to deal with people who push the limits in peer review or are argumentative in peer review, and sometimes it's hard to stay professional, and sometimes we get a slap when we say bad things. But for the most part, it's still satisfying for me.
Now, because I'm reading all over the forums, though, I wanted to talk with you, like some of the threads and things that I've seen that you get onto, because especially with Progenitor, you've gone into some dark places of the XNA framework. You've pushed it to some limits that most of the other developers, haven't even come close to.
I would agree. So I started working on Progenitor last October and thought I knew a lot of things about XNA, and there's a couple of gaps that I hadn't done a lot of things on, but I figured I'd work those as I went along. One of the big surprises was that the Xbox 512 megs of memory is really not as much as you think it is. And I had not hit that limit. I've done plenty of Xbox projects for people and stuff, and I had never come close. And so the first day that we ran it on the Xbox and it started crashing and we were getting out of memory errors was a bit of a shock to me. Some of them were very easy to deal with. I'm very used to optimizing and sorting out garbage problems, but other things just caused us no end of trouble. You have to remember that textures take up a ton of space. So we have something like 12 different characters in the game. They all have a 2K by 2K texture map. They all had a 2K by 2K bump map, which has been cut down. Our original level was, I believe it was something like 9 4K by 4K textures so that we could zoom in. And when you actually sit down and add these things up, you realize why you're getting towards 512 meg of memory. But up until that point, I had never had to worry about it. So, yes, a big shock to the system with that. Big shock to the system when you're using an engine that you didn't necessarily code yourself. And before anybody thinks I'm panning Sunburn, I'm not. Sunburn's an awesome product, and I would not be anywhere close to finishing the game without it. But one of the things that I didn't understand was the way that they were going to do shadows, for example. So I unfortunately had I believe a 1.5 million triangle mesh for the level originally. And when we gave that to Sunburn to draw, it drew it 6 times. And I couldn't work out why it drew it 6 times until John pointed out that's how many times you have to draw things when you want shadows. And at that point I thought, oh, of course, shadow maps. So we've done a lot of optimization since then. So our level is less than a quarter of that. We don't draw as many shadows. There's a ton of things that we've had to do to even get this thing running at more than 5 frames a second.
Now, I think you said in the thread that it actually came from some of the Sunburn guys helping you out, but you came to a number of what, like that full 512 is not all for your game. You obviously have to run the XNA framework. Xbox has some stuff to run, and did you come up with like 380 or something? Was that the? It was.
I'd have to find the thread. It was. I believe it's more like 480. So I completely, and we have no, just to confirm, just to clarify, we have no confirmation on this from the XNA guys. And unless you've got an XDK, we don't believe it's possible to measure. So,
correct. Yeah.
So John at Sunburn has done some tests, and I'm not 100% sure how he does them. And I have a horrible echo again.
It's probably your browser. Half the time, the browser lags even when.
No, I have my screen muted. Oh, it's gone away now. Anyway, so there we go. John just put the post in the forum. So essentially, here we go. About 400 meg. So after Sunburn,
420, and then when you run Sunburn, you have 385 to 395.
Yeah.
So that's damn good for Sunburn to take up so little for what it's providing.
Yeah, and you have to remember when you look at any compiled .NET code, it's relatively tiny. You know, our game and the DLLs we ship with it are, in my opinion, insignificant to the amount of memory we use. So, you know, we were saying just before the show, if you put a 1080p texture in your game and it's uncompressed, that's 8 meg immediately down the toilet without you even trying anything. So the DLL and the exes are largely irrelevant. We don't know what XNA is doing with the rest of the memory, but clearly there's very funny Stegosaurus. Yeah. Get off my lawn! You can't have your ball back.
Yeah, it may not be him. It may be something on the audio setup, because I got a lot of weird things going in, and I don't know why he gets an echo, but it seems to come periodically. Or it may all be all in his head. We don't. There are things we simply do not know. And, you know, that is what's truly going on in Andy's head and how much memory is truly available to XNA.
I would say that a memory upgrade for the Xbox would have made me happier over the last couple of months and could have got a lot more bugs fixed. Probably in the 2 weeks before Dream Build Play, I spent most of my time trying to get the game to run for more than 5 minutes, I believe, at the beginning. So it got quite hairy in those last few weeks before Dream Build Play when we realized that, sure, the game would start and we could test individual things, but if we sat down and actually played it, and I'd say our average game play time is between 15 minutes and 20 minutes, something like that, and we could not play for that long. So I'm glad to say that the Dream Build Play and the builds that are in playtest right now, for those of you who want to go play it, you can happily run them. We actually ran a game with 8 characters sitting there and an AI wandering around for 23 hours and 42 minutes last week or the week before. And the only reason it stopped was because the Mr. Comcast decided to pull the plug on the internet. And as you well know, when you're running an XNA game and you lose the internet, you lose Creators Club and the games.
Yes, as I well know, every week that I sit down to review the games for the week, that seems to be about the time that the internet connection will flake out at some point. I'll have them all downloaded and not be able to play a single one.
Part of that is because I'm upstairs on client either watching anime or showing Jasmine SpongeBob, and somehow the Xboxes do not like having 2 users on the same exact IP address.
It seems to be. It actually seems to be indie game related, because when I've been on the 360 downstairs playing a disc game, and you've been watching Netflix, we've not had a problem.
Are you logged in as the same gamer tag? We have that problem at work when John goes and logs in on the other Xbox, and it'll actually, if we're running a PC and I'm logged in.
We're 2 separate accounts, and it's just saying,
We
I don't know
moved-
how to deal with this.
Yeah, we did move to a gold family plan, but yeah, we're 2 separate gold accounts, and it will kick one out. It also
Or both.
could be the router that I have. It may not. It may have some bugs in its universal plug and play, which online I've read that's what the Xbox is using to open ports on the router, and that could be the cause of it. And also, Comcast is a piece of shit too. So
Yeah, I was about to say, you're not sponsored by Comcast, are you? Because they've caused no end of trouble to me.
Oh, she got into it last week with Comcast Bill online on Twitter.
Because he kept trying to explain away, and then he got to the one point that they can never explain away. It's like, I used to be able to put a TV on every single wall in my house, whether it needed it or not, attach it to cable, and I'd not have to pay 1 cent more. Now I get 3 TVs.
Well, that's the problem. It was people like you who had a TV in every room of the house that ruined it for the rest of us.
Not. It's the college kids. I know, because I was one.
Stealing cable.
No, we actually didn't steal cable, but we let somebody use cable a couple of months, but they chipped in, so they weren't technically freeloading.
Yeah, they paid part of the cable bill. That's not stealing
They
cable,
weren't
Dylan.
freeloading on you. They were freeloading on Comcast. Anyway.
Everybody in the neighborhood is paying for this one cable line. It's not stealing.
It's like,
Y'all are getting paid for something.
a family of 4 walks into a buffet and pays for 1 plate.
That's a special kind of bath. So another cool thread that I learned some shit in that you were on was the CPU affinity setting. So I'm used to Magic land on Magic.net land on the PC, right? And if I spin up a thread, it'll just figure out where it should go, right? And it'll core balance it and everything. If I spin up 12 threads and it's an 8-core system, it'll figure out something cool to do that. And that is not the case on the 360. If you launch a thread, it stays on the same core, same CPU as the core and CPU in which it was launched on, which is almost pointless.
Well, you have to remember that when you're talking about games and game developers, they love control. They want every bit of memory that they access to be accessed through the right cache at the right time, and they want to tell the operating system where things run on which thread and on which core. And consoles are very, very cut-down machines. As far as I understand, there is some remnants of Windows, the operating system, running on the Xbox. Rather less than there was on the original Xbox, which essentially was a Windows PC with some changes. But they don't want the overhead of the operating system. So what they do is they don't bother writing the APIs to deal with that, because they know that 99% of the developers are going to say, I'm not using that API, I'm doing it my way. So when you get the XNA framework on top of there, some things the XNA framework improve for us. So, we get a nice API around Connect. That's a great example. It's not on Xbox, unfortunately, but it's rather more simplified than the Connect API that the real developers get. They can access probably tons of low-level stuff and decide what to do. We get a skeleton and a camera. And I think the same thing applies to the threading, that they just didn't want to write a scheduler for us in XNA, and that makes sense. So really the only problem is that most people don't realize this. So if they decide to spin up a new thread and they wonder why their game's not going any faster, it's because all of their threads are running on the same core, and the other 3 or 4 cores are sitting there idling. So it's really a discovery issue rather than an API issue in my
Yes. I mean, it boils down to all the work that I did threading the AI in Inkablocks was wasted because it all ran. Like, I read that and my heart just sank. Like, that was our one performance issue we constantly battled. And because it's a puzzle type game, so it's a little bit more involved for the computer player than, you know, point at the enemy and shoot. And, you know, I was like, oh, I'll thread this and, you know, let it run in the background and get all the statics and communications set up, and still spent a lot of time. And now I wonder if I was to load that up. What you need to do is you call thread.setProcessorAffinity, I think is the function.
Yes.
And you give it a value 0 through 5. Now, technically you can give it a value 0 through 5, but actually values 0 and values 2 are reserved by the framework in the Xbox console itself. So your game is running on 1. Am I
believe that's the. I think that's the conclusion we came to. Yes.
Your game is running on one of them, and then you basically have 3, 4, and 5.
So essentially, so you have to think the Xbox. You have to think of it as a triple processor with each processor having 2 cores on it. It's a little subtly hardware different to that. So there are what they call 6 hardware threads across 3 CPUs. So in reality, there are 3 things that can be going flat out at a time, and each one of those can be doubled up, and when you double them up, they're sharing something. So processor 1, 2, 3, and threads 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on each one of those. And the Xbox and XNA runtimes use 2 of those threads for themselves. We couldn't get much information out of the XNA team, but my guess is that those threads really don't do a ton, because if they did, they'd be stealing from the other CPU threads.
Yeah.
So my guess is that they're there because the Xbox needs a certain amount of CPU to do things like bring up the dashboard when you hit that button, to process the network packets as they come in, because obviously things are getting put into queues somewhere for XNA to pick up. So I'm thinking that those are the sort of things. And we know one of the threads does the audio mixing.
And then also, too, I mean, you'd probably want to have a dedicated thread back there to shut the game down, because surprisingly, sometimes there are games that lock the shit up, and, you know, it's grateful that you can sometimes still get to the guide button and kill it.
Sometimes
Yes.
you can't.
Yeah, sometimes you can't. Sometimes it's even too hard that you can't
get that. A couple of times I've had to manually just cut the thing off.
Well, I can tell you, when we were having the memory issues, that we've all heard of Code 4. Code 4 means an exception happened and I didn't handle it. And we've all heard of Code 7, which is when you pull the network cable out and Indie Games says you're not connected anymore. And there is also a Code 3.
Code 3, we've seen those.
Which means something happened so bad that I can't even give you a code for.
Get off the couch and restart the Xbox.
Yes. We have also seen absolute just hangs. The only way that I ever was able to repro what it was doing was by single-stepping through the code. And when I single-stepped through to a line that tried to render something, the whole game would just hang. And when you start running out of memory, the Xbox does very, very bad things.
We've run into that. We've run into that on a couple games when we were planning to review. At fixed points, it would hard freeze the Xbox.
There were a couple of games that...
I think Mute Crimson had a bug at one point, like in Stage 4, that I kept hitting, and if I just did the jumps in the right weird sequence, a hard hang on the Xbox.
There was a Marvel game that we ran into multiple times. Like, it was reproducible if you had multiple players.
Yeah, and I mean, they don't pop up any kind of Code 3, Code 4s.
Yeah.
When they do that. And that's always like a freak out situation, because I've had some red ring Xboxes. Did yours ever red ring?
No, but it I've had, like, with my old one before I got the new Slim, I had like CD problems and, you know, disc unreadable.
It's always a fucking scary moment when that Xbox hangs of like, oh shit, do I have to send this back? I mean, now that we have 2, And I think, Andy, I made the same mistake that you did. I think I saw on the forums that you posted that you cannot run the Creators Club without a hard drive.
You absolutely cannot. Even if you have the 4 gig Xbox, that doesn't count as a hard drive because the 4 gig is actually an internal memory unit.
Yes.
And it doesn't even like using that for its own crap.
No. So no, you can't do that. So one thing I should jump back to the threading because it's a common mistake people make. You actually have to set the thread affinity from within the thread when it's running. So you can't create the thread and set the affinity. You have to start the thread, and then inside the thread itself, you set the affinity. So yes, that's a problem that people have. The easy way is to just use the thread pool. So the thread pool that you can use on normal .NET framework works perfectly well on the Xbox. The only thing it doesn't do is it doesn't load balance across the threads. However, it will stripe them across the threads. So it guarantees that the different threads run on different things, but it doesn't allocate it based on which ones are loaded. I think it's just pretty much a simple round-robin allocation. But for what most people want, that will solve their problem. If all they want to do is do a bit of background loading, it'll be fine.
I think I also attempted to thread our content loading, too, in Inca blocks.
Yeah.
But that was all done on a thread.
That actually worked, though. I mean, it wasn't like we didn't run
it worked, but I wasn't actually doing it on a separate thread. I was doing it on a separate thread. I wasn't on a different hardware core.
Right.
Hardware thread when I was running it. Another forum thread that I found really interesting, and you said when we were chatting earlier that this data came again from some of the Sunburn forums, but was the back buffer setting of several AAA games. And that not only are most AAA games not setting the back buffer at 1080p, most are not setting it at 720p either.
Absolutely. One of the things that everybody seems to want to do on indie games is run at 1080p. And we get a lot of threads about how, hey, my title screen runs quite happily at 17,000 frames per second, so I know I can support 1080p. But as soon as I start drawing something, it doesn't run very fast anymore. What am I doing wrong? And inevitably, they're running at 1080p and drawing too much stuff. So the Xbox and the GPU, although nice and fast, have a finite amount of stuff they can draw. And if you're drawing 1080p instead of 720p, then you're drawing, I forget, what is it, something 60% more pixels or something like that, which means 60% more runs through those pixel shaders, and it just all builds up. And on the Xbox, you can't fit the whole 1080p memory into the EDRAM, so you get this nasty thing called predicated tiling, which can slow you down if you get things wrong there. So there's a lot of things that people just assume that 1080p is the only way to go. So John managed to find a list of games from somewhere that at their back buffer size, and I think many of them run at 576, I think is the common height.
Yeah, well, I think it was like 1,000 by 576.
Yeah.
Something like that, 5,000.
Just to point out, they all have MSAA turned on, so you get nice smooth edges. And remember, people playing their Xbox are generally sitting 10 to 15 feet away from the screen, and they're used to a TV. And a TV is the ultimate in anti-alias images, if you think about it. So high res is not always great. Those of us with computers who sit 6 inches from the monitor like to see the crisp edges of windows, but it doesn't always work that way. And it's better to get the performance and not worry about the resolution, because really it's all about playability. And one of the other things...
The scaling, I mean, the Xbox has a lot of hardware scaling built in.
Indeed. So it will...
So it's not going to cost you anything to use it.
Absolutely not. Well, I mean, remember, still you've only got a back buffer at 720 or 640, though, so it can't give you new pixels, but it will blend them nicely.
Yes.
And it does it in hardware, so there's costs you nothing to draw on a 1080p screen. And John has just posted some resolutions.
Yes. So Halo 3 is 1152 by 640. And Oblivion was 1024 by 600. So I mean, those are good-looking games. Well, I don't know about Oblivion. I would say it's a good-looking game.
Once you get out of the dungeon.
I didn't make it out of the dungeon.
Well, there you go.
I took the game back at that point. I was like, fuck this game. But
it's
Halo
another...
3 looks good. And yeah, it's not running that high. Now, for the XNA framework, what I also learned in that thread was it magic scales for you, not necessarily at 720, but at 720 and 16:9 aspect ratios less than 720, right?
The Xbox will actually put the black either top and bottom or left and right as you need, and it will scale to whatever TV resolution you've got it set to. The only thing it's incapable of doing is taking a 1080p back buffer and converting it down to 640. So if you do write your game to run in 1080p, then you have to write a special render path to render a 640p image, because there are still people out there that have a SDTV and they will have it set to 640. So this is one of the reasons that we always recommend in the forums that you set your back buffer to 720 as a good start point, because it will run on every single TV.
But if you were to go in and say set your back buffer because you're learning this, you're like, wow, I'm not going to overshoot, I'm going to undershoot, and I'm going to go 1024 by 600.
Yep.
You'll still get that scaling at the 640p.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is what I learned. I always thought you had to set it. This is just ignorance here, but I always thought if you set it to anything other than 720p, you didn't get that magic scaling.
I see what you mean. No, I believe the only thing it can't do is 1080p down to 480p.
So that's pretty cool. Any other things like this that you've stumbled into that isn't obvious, I think, or known among guys, like you said earlier, doing the 2D games and such like that? Sometimes you don't run into these weird things.
Man, I'll have to think of that off the top. One thing we discovered with our when we was doing the memory analysis was that the FBX exporter from 3D Studio Max adds all sorts of crap into your data stream. So we have a very big level, for those of you who've seen the video of Progenitor, and I loaded it up. I was really looking at performance issues, and I'm in Pix, and I kind of look, and I'm clicking, there's a vertex buffer there, and I bring up the vertex buffer just to see roughly how many triangles are in it, and I noticed that there were 6 sets of UV coordinates in there, and they were all identical. And this is one of the meshes in there that probably has 50,000 triangles in it. And if you think about each UV channel is 2 floats, so that's 8 bytes, and we've got 50,000 triangles, so you can do the math in your head and work out how many bytes that is. And when I asked the artist, he said, no, I didn't put those in, and we had a look, and it was hard to tell what was going on in 3D Studio. And in the end, we had to write a content pipeline processor to remove them. So that's something that I've discovered recently that I had never seen in the forums before after 5 years, that for all we know, every FBX export has got all sorts of rubbish in it. Things like color channels. FBX always has a color channel in it. If you're rendering textures and you're not doing anything with the color channel, you don't need it. So that saved us a bunch of memory too. So that's one good example of something that's come up recently. Other than that, I'm old now, and my brain doesn't actually remember things until I see them in the forums.
Now to find out some of this stuff, like to go in there and look at that, you said you were using Pix, right?
Right.
Now, I've not actually checked out Pix, but you can run that on the PC. There is an Xbox version we don't have access to. It's for the big boys.
Yeah, that's correct.
Because most of the time, like when I've been trying to debug our models, I hate to admit it now, but I've been looking at the XML dumps in the object folder of the content pipeline.
Well, yeah, so I've never had to open one of those, but I don't know how you'd read one. I mean, it must make you go cross-eyed after a while. So
painful.
Yeah,
it is painful.
I usually use Pix for performance. I'd never thought of it as a memory thing before, but it's been very useful because I'm able to see what things are loaded, and so I can look and you can see all the textures, and you go, hey, why am I loading that texture on this particular thing? And you realize that you're drawing something you weren't supposed to be drawing. And why are they talking about pirates and poop holes in the chat? I don't think they're even listening to us.
No, at some point they just go off on their own. And
yeah.
I know earlier they were like trying to get my wife naked or something on the show.
Who is doing this out of curiosity?
Well,
everyone.
Yeah, I mean we have
Yay!
Stegs and we have Mad Ninja in there, so
Okay.
we've already lowered the
I
standard.
didn't know which of the usual suspects.
Anyway, so back to pics. Let's talk tech
Yeah.
here instead of naked ladies, because none of the guys in the chat have ever seen a naked lady. That's why they're all so excited, I think.
Oh, I can tell you that from what Stegs drew of "Can you handle two at once?" He's probably not seen women.
Oh, okay. So basically, we could get Dylan naked and tell him that was a naked woman, right?
There we go. So since we're on their idea games, there's the game idea of the week.
Anyway,
Get Dylan naked.
yeah. So back to pics.
Back to pics.
People. So pics is a tool that comes with the DirectX SDK. I don't believe it comes with XNA. You have to download this big old the SDK. And what it does is it intercepts all the DirectX calls. It's a horrible low-level tool, and it's one of those things that when I sit down and try and think, how would you write that? I don't have a clue. It's the same with like virtual PC and things like that. The guys that write these have a different kind of brain to me. And so what it does is when you're running your game, it sits there and it records every single DirectX call that's been made, and it then presents it in various ways. So the most common thing that I do with it is I run into the game, and then you can assign a hotkey, and you can say, record this frame now. And you hit the button, and it records one frame of your game. And then you can look at that frame, and you can play it back forwards and backwards, and you can say, start with the clear screen, and you'll see the screen go clear. And then you can step forward one command at a time, and you can watch things draw on the screen. One thing that's actually quite interesting to do, and it's preventable, but I've never seen a game that does it, is you can go and load up Call of Duty or Halo 3, and you can run it through pics. And you can actually watch how they draw things. And it's quite fascinating to see things that you thought were meshes are not meshes. They're just 2D sprites drawn over the top and things like that. So you can actually learn how other games draw things using this method. And for me, it's a case of it gives you timings. So you can see that, you were in this shader for so long, and you're drawing this with this bitmap and this bump map. And so I use it really just to see how long it takes to draw the frame and if I'm drawing too many triangles. And then I compare that to what Sunburn gives me. And Sunburn has a bunch of statistics. And thanks to John, I understand about 50% of them now, I think. And you can go in there, and that's how, for example, we found, I believe the record was 6 million triangles. And when we first ran this on the Xbox, the most amazing thing is the PC was running just fine. It was only the Xbox we killed, which is why it took me a little while to notice. So that's some good advice that I can give people. Always run on the Xbox at least once a day when you're writing a game. You don't have to develop on it all the time, but if you don't run on the Xbox frequently, 2 weeks before Dream Build Play, you will discover that it doesn't run anymore, and then you will panic.
All right, let's see. I think I hit all there I want. I did pull up some news. I guess I'll go through it pretty quickly. I don't know if you can comment or if you even know anything. You may not. I'm suspecting you probably don't have any information. But Major Nelson, Deal of the Week, was zombie games. And I was looking down the list, because I've been trained by Major Nelson not to buy anything on release. I only buy things when they go on sale. Twin Blades is on there. And I'm like, did Twin Blades go XBLA? When did this happen? And no, it didn't. It's an Xbox indie game. That's a Deal of the Week.
Yeah.
Right?
And its price drops. When you log in with your gold account, you get the Deal of the Week price, and it drops. When you log out, it goes back up. I wasn't even aware that was possible for the indie games, let alone that indie games were actually getting that pricing.
I know nothing about the details, but I do know that the Xbox guys can do all sorts of special things.
So, I mean,
so
that's
there's
good. It's a good hopeful thing because it's not an isolated thing. It is possible, and we're usually. The community at large, they don't really announce these kind of things, but to see that in there, because we talk about how there's never really been a game that has gone from XBLA Live indie games to XBLA. It's always maybe a developer of an XBLA Live game got to make a XBLA game, but they've never promoted one, to see indie games, showing up in there. It helps overall. I do believe it helps overall.
They'll pull them for spotlight and features.
Yeah, they've been...
Go ahead.
Yeah, they've been pulled for other things before. So we've definitely seen them in like the Olympics and the World Cup. Several indie games are included in those promotions. I have not seen one that's had a price change before, but since they actually own the pricing, there's no reason they can't manipulate that. I honestly, I do not know the reasons why they chose to force the indie game people into 90-day price changes. We've often asked them, and we've never got an answer. So I can't comment on that one. As for
like arbitrary, we own you, bitches.
Well,
it could well just be that.
I don't know. I mean, they seem to have enough trouble keeping the database running smooth as it is. So
yeah,
if we start changing prices even more often,
exactly, it could be to do with their feeds and how they calculate stuff, and maybe their accounting cycles are only 30 days. Or something.
Exactly. You think it's slow to get paid now? Imagine if you could change more than every 90 days.
Either that, or it's like XBLIG is completely open, so it's like, what if we allow users to do this? Won't they abuse it?
Well,
it happens with every.
Yeah.
My experience from the forums is if there is an opportunity for abuse, there will be a couple of dickheads who do.
Yes.
We see it all the time. Here's a rule about what you can put in your game. Okay, I'm going to push it just so that I can be special. There's somebody doing that right now in the forums that I'll let you guys go find with the name of their game. They're trying to be sexual, and they've already been shut down. So,
oh no! See, my plan to that was I just went ahead and decided I was going to capitalize on the SEO, and so I wrote the post that there's no sex in Xbox Live indie games, just so every search that is sex and indie game comes back to GameMarx, baby.
There's a disturbing amount.
There is a high amount of searches for sex and game name.
In specific
nudity game name.
Specific indie games.
Yes. Well, there's popular ones. There's always like nudity Momocuri, nudity Avails Dungeon. Those are just like top.
Well, it was funny. I think we got some for like Aphelion or something. Like things that are not
that shouldn't
sexual
even,
at all.
Why would you expect that in Aphelion? That was one.
Because it's a role-playing game. I don't know. And
maybe there was a
there's
harpy
like the romance
or something.
subplot. So obviously,
and you can get some boobies.
Obviously, Mass Effect has taught us that.
All right.
Every role-playing game has a sex scene.
I'll link to this in show notes. Chris Steele had a good post on his blog, chrissteele.net, on why he makes light versions of his games for Windows Phone 7. I know we don't normally talk a lot about Windows Phone 7.
Except to gripe about it.
But he essentially, he makes a light game. He makes two versions of the same game. One is free, and it has the word light at the end of the name, and the other one is a paid download. Now, the paid download still has a trial in it, and the trial mode of the full game is identical to the light game. Okay? But
does Windows Phone 7 have the 8-minute limit?
I don't know.
No. Okay.
I know it has a trial mode. I don't know what the limits are.
There is no limit. It's very open. It's really up to you to do with as you please. When you download a trial mode, you just get a flag that says you're in trial mode or you're not in trial mode, and at that point, it's whatever you want to do with it. So if you want to time it, you can time it. If you want to limit it, you can limit it.
So this makes more sense. He said that his light version of Hypership Out of Control is identical to Hypership Out of Control trial mode. So yeah, you can play it as much as you want. I guess it makes sense. But the reason to have the light, he got I don't know what the period is for on here. I'm looking at 3 months of data. I think I'm looking at 3 months of data. Almost 7,855 downloads of the light version versus 150 downloads of the paid version. So, now, we can't do this on Xbox, but for the mobile market, that's definitely something to consider, that people are downloading things that say free.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know who you can blame for this? The iPhone developers. So the whole light model really started over there because everybody wanted to be on the free list, and so they all put ads in their game. The real question, of course, is let's say you have 300 free downloads and 10 paid downloads. Are you really making enough money off the ads to justify it? Because does it matter? Isn't it all about making money for most people at the end of the day? So
with a lot of the freemium games, they've got two different circles of connections going on around Game Center and something else. I forget what the other one is. And there's some of them who you can click here to get free real money equivalent points. And so some of them you download somebody else's freemium game and you get a few coins, and then you download something that actually costs money and say, hey, that gives you a lot more. Ching, 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 ching.
I'm not sure how that helps a developer, though.
Well, a lot of them, it's redirecting you to something else they've developed.
Yeah, but if you're not going to buy that, it doesn't matter how many free games you download. Unless you're making money from either the ads or the... I mean, one thing about Chris's post was he didn't say, and I made more money from the free ones I downloaded. He just said I had more downloads. So unless I start seeing dollar signs on some of these posts, it's very hard to know. And I know that the ad revenue on the Windows Phone has been criticized a lot. There was... The first few weeks, there were people making a lot of money, and I can't think of the name of the guy who put the post up about how much money he made from the ads. I'm sure somebody will remember it. And he made a lot of money, and then 3 weeks later, the prices just dropped. And so at that point, it was not as worthwhile anymore. So
well, he did post. He did update the post and said that of the 150 paid version downloads, 16 sold. Mm-hmm. So and I think he said the total was $22 or something. Now, I don't know if he made $22 or more in ads. Either way, we're not talking about retirement money, but I think that's more of a Windows Phone 7 issue at the moment. The problems with Windows Phone 7 is you don't have a lot of handsets out there, and Microsoft has encouraged a lot of applications, so you actually have quite a crowded market for a very few amount of handsets. So it's bad on both sides. It's a crowded market, and there's not many people that own them. I have no idea where it's going to go. I really don't. I don't know when Nokia rolls out a phone and the Mango updates live. I think right now Microsoft has made some mistakes in, they should have paid attention more to Apple and just don't talk about what's new and what's next, because as soon as you say in the fall we're going to do all this,
people are going to stop buying.
You're killing the sales of the current version. And Apple
But then they get people like you, Michael, who say how sucky it is that they never tell you what's going on. And people like me, of course.
Well, yeah. I mean, from a developer's perspective, I kind of want to know what's going on, but...
Oh, we wouldn't have been so pissed if we'd known that, a couple months down the line...
Yeah, that you were going to put in this new feature I could have taken advantage of. But I think I'd rather be upset by that and have a marketplace, and an ecosystem growing. Because I generally think... do you have a Windows Phone 7, Andy?
I do indeed. I'm very happy with it. However, it's my first smartphone, so I have very little to compare it to.
Oh, yeah, very little comparison. I do think from the ones that I've played with, the ones I've checked out, it's a really sweet phone. There's nothing wrong with the phone itself, but, I mean, the market's not digging it, and I'm not trying to even chase the mobile game apps, because we got enough problems just trying to figure out what we're doing right now. But I'll link to it in show notes. But it's an interesting, if you're in, and I don't think this is just a Windows Phone 7 thing. I think if you're going for Android, iPhone, if you're going for the markets, having the light version is getting a lot of eyeballs. At least you're getting downloads on your app. Then you have the problem of how to convert those. Of course, I don't think you're going to make enough of the ad revenue on any platform. Ad revenue just sounds like
Angry Birds or something.
Yeah, but maybe you can upsell to other games. Maybe you can get a couple people hey, go buy the full game to drop ads. But the stark difference was that, hey, 8,000 downloads versus a couple hundred. Just because
it certainly sounds good on your marketing and its eyeballs. And I think I talked to some people about iPhone games, and a lot of them said that upselling was a good thing for them. once they became well known as a developer, people would buy their other games. But you have to keep regularly doing sales. You have to drop the price, have a sale this weekend. People get your game for free or for $1.
I knew a BlackBerry developer, and he had worked that down to a science of how long he needed to keep the game at the high price, to drop it, and then to bring it back up and build an inertia of sales and keep repeating that process. What I've actually read that does the best is if you can do DLC. So if the gameplay is basically free, and then level packs or something like that is what you sell.
Or special items. So you can only, like, there's a couple of zoo games that I got.
If you want to be a scummy ass developer, then yes, you sell Smurf berries.
No, not
freemium.
Smurf
Yes, the
berries.
freemium.
You smell surf berries, and then you sell new Smurfs. Smurfs that nobody else can get.
Smurf slave trade is what it sounds
so basically, like any, they're getting you from all angles.
Yes.
No matter what you want in the game, you pay for it.
Yes. You can't get Grouchy for free. No.
People willingly
next
accept this.
Article that I tagged, I'm going to link in show notes. Chad Carter dusted off his blog, woke it up, and posted a little bit on creating a selection wheel in XNA, which is kind of the Mass Effect and the Dragon Age type interface, and Assassin's Creed, which I haven't played yet, but I guess it uses it as well. And I think it's a good read because I think it's a good interface. It's a good menu interface for the 360. If you're on the 360, this is a good menu interface. I like these. I can quickly pull up a menu and interact with things. But the reason I'm mentioning it is I want to ask Andy, degrees or radians?
I think in degrees, and I code in radians.
Okay, so you still do the mental calculation and have to step back for a moment.
It depends. If I couldn't be bothered to remember how many pies are in a circle, or how many circles are in a pie, then I will use the math helper 2 degrees or 2 radians function just because I'm lazy. But in general, I avoid doing that bit of math.
Is that because you come at it as a performance stand, or you just it's less code?
I'm just happy in both. I've been doing math for a long time, so I'm actually quite comfortable in radians. But for some reason, 360 degrees is burnt into my head. I mean, clearly the problem is that neither of them are right, and it should be metric. So there should be 100 of something in a circle. So,
expect nothing less from somebody from England.
It would be so much nicer if I could just think about it like that. But yes, in fact, interestingly, I don't know if you know, there's I can't think what her name is. There's a girl that does math videos on YouTube, and
there's a girl that does everything on YouTube.
Hang on a bit. No, not that one. And it's called Pie is Still Wrong.
I really need that glass of wine.
What's it called? Pie is Still.
Pie is Still Wrong. And her name, I don't know what her real name is, but her channel on YouTube is called Viheart, V-I Heart. So Vinyl. She's probably related to you somehow.
You think she's making a throwback to the VI text editor?
Could be. Maybe her name is Vi. That's short for something, presumably. Anyway, she does great videos about math, and there was one last week where she talks about how math is wrong and there should be one pie in a circle. And apparently there's a whole campaign for redoing pi so that it's a circle. And I'm going to post the link right here so you can all see it.
Oh,
but anyway,
wow.
Just entertain me.
No. See, I'm against that because I kind of force myself to fully embrace the radian and just like give over to it and think in it and work on it. Now that I've got myself where I can, it doesn't take me. It still takes me longer to figure out what I want in radians than what I wanted in degrees, but not that long that it's slowing me down. I could not deal with a change.
I don't know how it works out, but I figured radians had something to do with the fact that there are 2 pi radians in a circle, and the circle's circumference is 2 pi times the radius.
Indeed.
So.
You need to go watch this video. It will explain it all to you.
This will
confuse me.
add.
I think in degrees and code in radians too. So.
To be honest, there are so many more things that are important to remember. So, for example, I can never get the which is your pitch and roll. I have to look that up every time. I mean, there's just that stupid function, give me the matrix for your pitch and roll. Which one is which? I have to look it up every time. What order should I do my multiplications of matrices in? I mean, most of us probably do it one way, and when it doesn't work, we flip them around till it works. There's so many more things to worry about than whether it's radians or degrees.
See, because I did that XNA 3D primer, I had to extensively research these enough that they mostly stick with me. On that tangent, I don't know if anybody in the East Tennessee area, DevLink is coming up in August, and it looks like I'm going to actually do 2 XNA sessions now. So, you know how I love Space Invaders clones, right? I'm just a big fan of Space Invaders clones.
It's not like you've given one a pass.
No, it's not like I've taken the most popular one on the service and been like, yeah, this is, I don't know what you guys see in this. I'm going to do a session on writing a Space Invaders clone. I'm almost done with the code. I'll pass the code around a bit for anybody that has time to kind of take a look at it and rip it apart, because I kind of want to make this a little bit better than the example code given, in some of the educational kits. I don't want somebody to take the example code and immediately fail the evil checklist.
You want to do something that's real world, I guess.
I do, but at the same time, you have to balance real world with teaching.
Right.
So there may not be some performance optimizations in there you might want to make. The other session is I'm going to reprise the XNA 3D primer session. And I originally was only going to do 1 XNA session, but I'll just come on the podcast because I made blog this over the weekend on vinyl.com. But fuck the Silverlight team. Not happy with them at the moment. The pivot control, which is impressive.
Did something just happened? Is this new?
This is new. This is new. The pivot control that's on Xbox Indies. We have the modified one on GameMarx. The one that was funny because I had to keep explaining to people, even who worked at Microsoft, that no, I didn't write the pivot control. That's you guys did. Microsoft did, dude. You got a team over there that created this. I just used it.
And used it well.
I've been trying for over a year, back when I was even an MVP, to work with this team, and provide feedback and work with early versions and all that, because I'm using not only on those public sites, but at Drury Television, my day job. I have a huge database that's perfect for the pivot, and also image is important, right? So when somebody pulls up a gemstone, they want to zoom into that and look at the occlusions on the gemstone. So it's pivot, and they love it. And for a year, bureaucracy of fucking Microsoft has kept me from actually working with the team, or some PM doesn't quite like it. And
well, now you finally got
a
response. But
so I got in off of signed NDAs, got into early access, and all of that mess. And then Ballmer was like, "Oh, we don't need any fucking live labs. Who needs research in a company? Fuck research, right?" Although Microsoft research is around, but live labs, they're gone.
Academic research versus product research.
Yeah. Who wants product research? Fuck it. What you do is you take the tablet, and then you put out the same goddamn tablet you've put out for the last 10 years, because in the 11th year, baby, it's gonna fucking work, all right?
Not better.
Yeah, no, anything. Yeah. But, so I get in all the early access programs and all that, but then since they moved to the Silverlight team, okay, so the Pivot Viewer guys went under, from Live Labs, Deep Zoom and Pivot Viewer guys went to the Silverlight team. The implication,
I guess, being that they would be in a later version.
Well, it is. It's going to ship in Silverlight 5. But Silverlight 5 beta came out, no Pivot Viewer. There was one PowerPoint slide at Mix that made some mention of it, it was going to be in Silverlight 5 eventually, and there was some talk of features but no
SP1
info. And it's basically, it's dark right now at Microsoft trying to get any kind of information on Silverlight after the whole Windows 8 HTML5 debacle.
Yeah. And
I sent them an email of hey, I'm on tap to give this talk in a month, right? And I'm on your NDA, your early access program, and you got nothing. It's total silence even on this. I'm getting ready to open a session with be careful about adopting this technology. It may not be going forward in future versions. There's no current guidance. You can't find anything on Microsoft sites on it, blah, blah, blah. Of course, I respond like, oh, no, it's active. And I think the one of the developers responded with, it's in the SDK, and so it'll be supported just like the Silverlight SDK. And I'm like, do you realize how little you've actually said at this moment for confidence? Like that's not at this moment what you want to hear, But it goes around back and forth, a couple emails later, and it's like, well, we can't give you early access because now you have to be in the early access for the Silverlight 5 program. And it's like, so why in the fuck did you email me or something? Like, I've been trying for over a year. I'm using this pivot control left and right. I've done a crazy number of things with it. And yet I still can't send the team feedback and work with them on the direction of the control. So I think I might because I'm not MVP anymore. I don't give a fuck.
So
what are you
going to
do? Take away my NDA? I don't give a fuck. It's not doing me
NDA
anything
that you
anyway.
haven't gotten anything out of.
Yes, exactly. So
are you just going to scrap your pivot viewer talk in favor of the XNA?
No, that's what I told him. I said, look,
Okay.
if I can't get my hands on the new version because I can't even get a clear answer on them because Pivot Viewer uses Deep Zoom, and it looks like in the version in 5, it no longer uses Deep Zoom. So I'm trying to understand, how do you zoom in and zoom out with thousands of images in the collection and keep performance? What's going on here? And then I said, look, if I can't lay hands to this, I'm not going to walk in a section in August and give a talk on something that will be replaced in September with the new beta drop. And what pisses me off is there's a Silverlight 5 beta with the new control in it right now that is okay to talk about because I can find on blogs video of the new control, right?
But you can't get a copy of it.
No, there's too much bureaucracy at the moment, and the EAP closed a couple weeks ago, and we're not accepting new requests at the moment. I'm like, it's only a year-old request. It's not a new request, but that went on kind of long. Let's talk about new games for the week.
Okay.
Because I surely will not rant on the new games for the week. I'm going to let anybody know right now that is listening to the shortened version of the podcast that is just wanting to hear the new releases game of the week, you can skip this episode. Just skip it.
Yeah, it was kind of light.
Light? This is the worst.
Light is kind.
This is the worst week ever.
We've had some bad weeks.
We've had some bad weeks.
But
we gave Silver Dollar Games Game of the Week once. We've had some dark weeks.
You know what it is, Mike?
What's that, Andy?
You know what it is? Everybody, all the good games are holding out for the Uprising. So nobody's putting their game in right now because they don't want to pass. They don't want to go in this week if they can get in the Uprising next week.
Exactly. I went to Armless Octopus and I told him specifically I blame Dave Voiles. This is his fault.
Well, you know what? We're down to 25 now, so there was 70-something games. So there's got to be a couple more good ones that didn't make it through the first 25.
Well, I think now, because they were going through that round, and then they cut them to 25, these just went into peer review, so we're probably a week or two out from them shaking into the service.
And then we'll get a week with 30 great games.
But, right on it's been rough, because we've had Dream Build Play, and that soaks up a lot of the good developers. And then, this Uprising, which is going great. It's wonderful for the service, and overall it's great. It just made this week hell. Andy, as always, feel free to comment if you want. If you want to stay a statesman and not comment, you are welcome to not comment.
Sadly, I don't get much time to play games anymore. Having a full-time job has messed with my schedule like you wouldn't believe. I used to work from home, and I could work when I wanted and go to the pub when I wanted, and then, cram at midnight if I wanted. Well, now I go to an office and I work a normal day, and now I'm wondering when people do all the other things like shopping and pooping. That was for you over there in the corner. Yeah.
They're working on the next Poopocalypse sequel, I think.
Yeah. So yes, it's. I have not probably played any of these games, so I can just tell you if the guy who developed it was an idiot in the forums. That's probably the best input I can give you.
All right. So Here are the Xbox
could be
Live
worse.
indie game new releases for the week. Our week runs this week from Friday the 8th of July through the 14th of July. The first one on our list is Zombies Hate Aliens. I hate this fucking game. So, I mean, this literally looks like somebody taking the 2D game starter example and expanding upon it a little bit. You just have the little flying saucers, and you have a little cannon, and you try to shoot down, and there's some upgrade, reload, buy ammo mechanic or something like that, but the controls are so convoluted, it was frustration. I gave up at 3 minutes. At 3 minutes, I stopped playing this game.
You lasted longer than me, because I was with the oldest stepdaughter, and she's like, you need to buy ammo. I was like, I know, I've gone to the store, but I cannot buy the ammo. It's not letting me buy the ammo. She tried it too, and it would not let her buy ammo.
It wasn't that difficult for me, although maybe they don't really say how much ammo costs, I don't think.
There's some price points there, but I'm not getting it, and I don't know how much money I had.
And you don't have the time to fiddle with
Right.
menu screens at the bottom at the rate that they're sending ships to shoot down.
Well, I didn't have that much of a problem with it. I kind of got into a rhythm, and it was cool. The hit detection was off on the ships, and I couldn't really...
It was off in the wild good way. Like, one cannonball would take out, like, 8 flying saucers for me.
But there were
Even
also
off
some...
screen.
There were also some flying saucers that took multiple hits, and it was hard to tell that I was doing any damage to them. So,
Our next game up,
I don't know.
Hack This Game 2. Motherfuckers, I played this game already. It was Hack This Game. This is the same damn thing.
Yeah.
It's just figure out the button combination from the hint on the screen. I was nice to it before. I was like, oh, that's kind of an interesting a little interesting. Fuck, I don't need a sequel. I did not need more of that.
And the thing is, you get less in the trial, so it's really hard to tell without, actually buying the full game what you're actually getting in this that you didn't get in the first one.
And again, they're running the gimmick of the first person who beats the game or something. They'll put their avatar on the cover.
Yeah. This could be you.
I feel so sorry for the people that have to peer review the avatar on the cover. It's not getting better, folks. We're in it for the long haul. Next one up, Duckinator.
I think this is a game where you're a large rubber duck and you have to collect the small rubber ducks.
Okay, so like the Cosmos type clone games where you have a little floaty circle and you have to absorb the smaller floaty circles to get bigger.
Yep.
Yes.
And then you can get the bigger ones and you have to avoid. Okay, now scratch all of that and just be a big circle to collect the little circles and you have this game.
I think they're
water
going
looked
for
pretty.
the wacky,
The water looked pretty.
duck themed. I think that's what they were going for. That was.
I can
what they were
render
trying
me
to sell
some
it
duck
on.
fat
Oh,
and have a nice day.
render.
There was also the little mini game of
It's a bad
shooting
pun.
at the title
Title
screen.
I completely missed that. I'm just like, go.
Well, I found it because I was frustrated because it's like, how do I select the damn menu? Oh, I gotta move the cursor, the targeting cursor over the menu to do it.
Actually,
I thought I was playing the game for a few moments. I thought, it's weird it says press start or start game up there, but I'm shooting the ducks. Like, I'm playing the game.
Actually, that reminds me, because when I was playing the game, it said stuff like turkey shoot or something like that as you picked up more ducks, and I was like, is something else going to happen? Like, I went back to the menu screen and looked for instructions.
Oh.
Michael, I haven't played most of these games, so as you're talking about them, I'm watching the video, and I just want to say that why do people show me the damn indie games screen and their menus and their loading screens on their promotional video?
Because they have no common sense.
I'm watching this game, and I'm at 15, 16. The actual game doesn't start till 16 seconds out of his 1 minute video. What a waste of time.
I think, the developers need to sit down and look at professional Dunn game trailers before doing theirs to realize, they're selling the game.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Indie games is like walking into a bad strip club. There's no tease whatsoever. You just go up there.
And then there's a naked chick.
And the naked chick, and she's flat and
has a couple
can't really
scars
dance.
that
Like, it's okay to be flat and you can't dance. Tease. That's the important part.
Yeah, there was this cute little Spider Woman chick.
So we're back to... Are we back to Dylan getting naked here? Can he show us how to tease?
We're
Not
work
where I
on
was
that.
going with that, but okay.
I'm not
Come
sure
on,
why
Dylan.
We're
that
gonna
has
work
come
on
up
that.
a second
Next,
time.
next game is Don't Call Me Skyfish. Follow up to the equally painful Call Me Skyfish.
I think they're going for a particular, like, it seems like it's supposed to look like the
They're going for internet meme
yeah,
type
like, but
thing.
I didn't get what was happening in this one. I guess because it's a
I don't
sequel,
understand
like it's a
the little
difficult...
penis waterfall things. What was going on with those?
I think they're supposed to be waves.
They were phallic, and they were spewing at the
because
top.
they don't have any animation.
I didn't get much far in this one because Jasmine started screaming at me and would not let me play this
I got
game.
to the first level, and then I got to the
Was it
second...
the horrible fish's face that
I
was
don't
scary?
know, but it turned on. I got to the start screen and she started screaming.
Like I said, I think this may be a sequel, in the sense of, like, you have to have finished the first one. You know, this is level pack 2.
Are you watching the video? You sound like you're laughing at this.
I am watching the video here, and you're right. They are giant blue penises with whipped cream on the top. I mean, how did this get through peer review? And the guy sticks his tongue out on the giant blue penises. It's disgusting. Needs to be failed.
Yep. That's Don't Call Me Skyfish. Giant blue penises that you lick.
I was willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. Oh, they're waves. They just don't have animation, and they're constantly rolling, so they're constantly in an upright. No, okay.
Yeah, Sausage Fest. Next one we have
Smurf
is
Sausage Fest.
Slightly better by comparison, Labyrinth.
Slightly better by comparison.
It is Hedge Maze the game. It looks like there might be more to it, but it mostly was finding your way.
That was the first level. I never got past the first level, or I didn't get past the first level before time ran out. But I think some of the screenshots show.
Well, on the first level, they give you the map. There was a map you could call up that showed you the exit, so you could get through it quicker.
I kept that didn't register for me. They said oh, go towards the tower, and I'm like, okay. And then I realized,
use
tower
the tower
is in a different part of the maze.
use the tower as... I mean, Labyrinth, the name is very apt, because I expected a little thing to, crawl out from a wall and go, hello, and I'm like, did you say hello? No, I said hello, that's close enough. I was totally ready for that. Andy has dropped and will join us shortly. So, let me make a quick time note here of when that happened again. 1:33
for Skype.
He'll pick back up automatically. He's done it a couple times. I have no idea what the connection is. But yes. So I mean, it totally has the vibe of Labyrinth the movie, which is kind of cool. But it didn't really seem to expand upon it in any way. But there was some kind of puzzle aspect. So once you get to the first maze, you then get to a little clearing that has go do things in a certain order, and there's some glyphs to read to figure out what the order is. Welcome back, Andy. And it looked like there might be a little more to it. It does have very, very rough 3D controls.
Yeah, I noticed I had to go in and invert the X. It's got the camera and third-person controls as opposed to just being a chase cam. But I had to go in and invert the X-axis for it to be playable for me.
Do you have any comment on this one, Cicely? No comment.
That's this week, folks.
You are back with us, right, Andy?
Yep.
I am indeed, yes.
Okay, all right. Oh dear God, I lasted 60 seconds on this next one. Block Vengeance Alpha.
Stab in the face. Next.
Well, no, it's a breakout clone. Instead of worrying about the ball passing the paddle, you're worried about your paddle's health. and falling blocks will damage it. And
that makes this game sound way more enticing than it actually is.
I mean, it definitely is a different twist. The execution leaves something to be desired because it's kind of has a lot of flicker going on. I don't know if they were trying to. I don't know what the deal with that was, but it just.
I'm just gonna go with not good development. I mean, from the art, the graphics, the gameplay. Yeah, this go download. What was it? Ion Ball. Go download Ion Ball. If you feel a need for a breakout, go get Ion Ball. Next one up, Urgent Invasion 360. This is our chopper game of the week. Seems like this is becoming a regular weekly thing to have a chopper simulation game.
Looked kind of nice, but
nice, not very great in the execution.
Chopper games are, I think, by necessity.
The controls
difficult.
were more forgiving than some of the other ones that we've played, but you kind of had this weird. You're looking at it top down, but the game is played in 3D, so you have to be at the right plane to shoot the other things.
Right. It gets difficult to figure out.
But it's kind of hard to figure out because you're looking top down exactly how high up you are.
I just went as high as I could go and used the ground attack, which fires down.
But it didn't seem to work unless you were close enough to see the targeting cursor on the ground.
I didn't get very far.
I went to a couple levels. There were like little things to pick up in the air, but it was pretty freaking awesome. Awkward to play.
Awkwardsome.
Yeah. Speaking of awesome. Wikipedia for the Xbox.
And you're limited.
Jesus fucking Christ. It's Wikipedia screen scraped down for the Xbox.
I assume this is the same guy who did the game facts.
Perhaps, because I looked up Avatar, and then I went in
I think it is. I think it is.
You get 6 pages on there, and then you can only see 2 of those 6 pages, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, this is blah, 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 blah.
This is the Game Masters, the FAQ. He did make Defy Gravity, so this is another lost to the cause developer who made a game and it didn't do well. And then just decided, fuck all, and I'll do this. Now, what was funny about this is I started going off in this game in the IRC chat, and he was in the IRC chat. Steggs was like, hey, that dude is in the IRC chat, and I did not stop going off. I wasn't going off on it hard. I was just like, wow, you see him play test? There's a fucking Wikipedia screen scrape in there.
It's knowing the guy was in there, I would go off harder on it. Be like, "Oh, you're here.
You have to answer for this."
Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let's be polite to our guest. This is no Bible reader. That's an illegal of its own.
At least you know the Bible isn't changing on a daily basis.
Hey, the Z-Man changed the Microsoft rules with the Bible. That's how powerful he is.
And you have several different interpretations, so you have to figure out which interpretation of the day, so whatever.
But that was one of your awesome contract gigs, wasn't it?
That was indeed a contract gig.
Lord help you.
It's nice and interesting trying to get text on there. So much as I think it's hilarious to put Wikipedia on there, especially since it's essentially not very interactive at all, I can understand some of the guys' pain. Having to write your own text layout and even just load that much text in one go, it was more trouble than I'd like to do.
Oh, because strings can get you into trouble with garbage collection fast.
Yes, and I didn't manage to get it down to 0 for the Bible reader. It was...
Are you saying there's garbage in the Bible?
There is indeed garbage in the Xbox Bible.
Especially in John, no less, yes?
Yes.
Our next game, Turbo Rocket. Dylan, you know how I love Asteroid Game Control.
Yeah.
Now put walls in that.
Yes, walls, obstacles. The art style was kind of neat. It's kind of got this...
Oh, come on. Neat? Well, no. This is developer art.
Well, no. It's kind of got this vector thing going on, 3D line art, and it's done in such a way that it actually kind of looks hand-drawn in places, like the levels.
Well, it's probably because it is, but...
Well, to do that with vector art, that's a little bit better than your typical. It's a differentiation between your typical from your typical Asteroids clone. That said, still an Asteroids clone, like,
and not a good one if there is such a thing. Next game up, Production Panic. Now this one
was actually somewhat interesting.
Somewhat interesting. I actually failed to do the first level, I think 8 times before I realized what I was supposed to be doing. So it kept saying move the color or whatever, and I kept going over to so there's little conveyor belts, and in the first level cake comes off the conveyor belt and it has to go through some little converting machines to deliver it. So I was thinking your standard food
Diner
type
Dash.
Diner Dash.
I saw Diner Dash and I was like, okay, I need to get the diner down
Why
to the
the
dash.
fuck can't I pick up the cakes? The cakes keep going on the floor, and and then
No, they said something about you need to move the color, so I was like, okay. I can't build anything here to put that there, therefore I must move the conveyor belt
and
I
then
have in here.
after the 8th fail, I figured out you want me to move the conveyor belts around.
I did it in the first go.
And then what you do is you move the conveyor belts around, but you don't have enough conveyor belt to build the entire system. So you're kind of hot swapping as you go, and it gets more complex later levels in. I don't think it's appealing to me, but what I did love, I honestly freaking loved the little foreman bitch. Because she comes on and she's so sweet. And she's like, hey,
hey, you gotta
after
get
this run,
done.
I get to go home, after this run, and we're all done. So, and then, she gets this,
You're
this
gonna
angry
work
face,
harder.
if I double the speed, I'll get to go home earlier. And then, get it done, motherfucker, Now, I wish...
She did the
Tsundere.
animate.
Yeah.
It's like, I love you, do this now.
I loved it. It was cute. I love the way it was set up. I really wish they had voice actor come in and do that. Tune in next week if the developer's listening. We're going to have Rhea Chan on there, a voice actor who is offered to work with indie games, sometimes just for credits, and get her to read those lines, because that would be hilarious if she spoke that. That would make the game for me.
I think it needed a main character like Tenchi that she bonked on the head a couple of times with her fist.
I could see that, so there's interaction.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a neat game. It got really difficult 2 and 3 levels in. It's
the puzzle, I don't think I was
wanna...
kind of enthralled with.
2
but...
actually confused me because they change what items come out of what conveyor belts.
The first
and I
one,
wasn't ready for
but...
it.
The first one I got a D on because I was just figuring out what it is. The other 2 I got S rank on, and I love
that they used S
Really?
rank, that they took that from Giant Bomb. That's
Yes,
got to be
they
Giant
did.
Bomb fans.
Well, no, video games, a lot of video games
You
do
go
that.
A and then S rank. That's Japanese kind of deal.
Never seen that in anything else.
I've seen it in a
Seen
couple
that
other
in,
things. I
In
can't
the
remember what,
Groove
but I've
and
seen it
Dead or
before.
Alive. Both do that, I believe.
You and your JRPGs.
Neither of those are JRPGs. One's a DDR
But
clone,
one
the other's,
thing though, I mean, if you up the story
fighting.
and you make it interesting between the things, I mean, if Catherine has taught me anything, I will play a shitty puzzle game for some story. Which, by the way, the demo to Catherine is out on the Xbox 360, so you can go check that out. Not an indie game, but worth checking out. Grand Theft Fruit. So I
want to like this game.
I wanted to like this game. I saw some screenshots and I kind of wanted to get into it, but again, this is a very obvious first platformer. I mean, it's like you got the basics of platforming in.
I actually had the moment
Nothing
where I was
special.
like, did you use... I wondered if they used the platform starter kit.
The starter
For a
kit.
second there. I don't know if that's the case or not, but it kind of had that.
But it has that kind of rough platformer feel of... You got the basics down. You figured out a platformer. You figured out how to get your levels down.
They've got puzzle elements. So, I mean, the mechanics may not be... Maybe a little rough, but... They actually know level design.
This is one that I say is not great now. Keep an eye for the games they do. If they stick with it, they're on a good path.
I think a sequel to this game would be definitely great.
Yeah, if they do some sequels, they do some more platformers. They've mastered a lot. Like, for what it was done, it was executed well. It's just that
it wasn't very challenging.
Yeah, it's
I
yet
could get through
another
it.
generic platformer on the platform. So, The text bubbles, though, were constantly over, like, where I wanted to look. That was
Yeah.
annoying.
And I didn't care that much about the story. I hate to say it, so I was kind of like,
The
okay,
story
yeah,
didn't
close
really
it, close
matter.
It, close
It was
close
kind of like a.
I just want to play. I actually had fun with it.
It was there.
Our next one up
painful?
is Blackstone Part 1.
I wanted to stab this in the face within the first 5 seconds.
This has taken the uncanny valley to the
Yes.
uncanny canyon. I mean, this is 3D models were never this bad. I can't say like this is just like retro throwback.
But they had decent voice acting, and it's trying to be a King's Quest.
I know
sort of
it
game,
is, but
which is-
it got to where it was one of those times where I would have rathered it had been in 2D because
yes,
it would have been easier to know what I can and cannot navigate. Why can I not step over this 4-inch piece of rock to go over there on the grass?
Fuck the 4-inch piece of rock. Going to the table, and it's like, there's a bracelet on the table. Pick up the bracelet. I don't have anything to put this in.
I got to
Oh,
this-
fucking shit. It's a bracelet. Put on the fucking bracelet.
I
You can
thought
carry a
about that.
bracelet. You don't need a sack to put the bracelet in.
I unlocked the store, and there's a rucksack in there. And it's like, oh, I need the rucksack. I picked up the coins that are in my room.
Yes, you could pick up the loose change,
So
but not
why
the bracelet.
can I not pick up the rucksack and leave coins in their stead?
King's Quest had a.
It had some of the bad things of King's Quest in it too. Yes.
Well, no, King's Quest actually it didn't make sense all the time, but at least it was slightly higher, slightly more epic than finding a bag for your bracelet.
It's pretty interesting.
I
mean,
need to find somebody to sell me this damn bag so I can pick up the bracelet.
I think this is a case of being spread too thin. Like when they going the 3D route and trying to go the King's Quest route.
Yes.
Obviously the small team, that's spreading yourself thin. I think, pare this down to 2D and focus on the questing element. You could have something really interesting.
Yeah.
Like you said, voice acting was good, and it looks like it was setting up some kind of interesting story. It'd be weird for Blackstone Part 2 to be 2D. Like, what happened to the world? It's flat. Oh no.
Maybe it'd look
The
better.
evil wizard spell flattened us all. Yeah.
I think it would look better and it would be less jarring to your sensibilities.
Last game up this week is Aliens versus Aliens. I did not figure out what the fuck was going on in this game.
It seemed to be a, I guess XCOM style. I guess
It's
that's
some weird 3D turn-based squad game.
It took me a while to figure out what was going on because the enemies are so far away.
All I know is I died.
Oh,
Did you die?
I think I did.
So you ran into enemies.
I think I did.
I did
I'm
not.
not certain.
I eventually did. I eventually killed the enemy, but I had to keep going. The beeping thing, I assume, is like if you get near, it tells you whether you're hot or cold. But
Yeah, but it was beeping like right next to where I started, and it was
Yeah.
like I keep getting colder. But obviously, there's no evilness around here. There's nothing to collect, and I'll be honest. There was a too long didn't read screen opening. I mean, there was a freaking wall of text.
This one is one that I actually skip. Most walls of text I read, but no.
It would take 2 playthroughs of the game. You'd have to read the wall of text, 8-minute timeout, load the game again, and then skip the wall of text to play the game. I'm not interested in your fanfic that much. Something about aliens and Civil War
I'm
and
sorry, you are
grabbing
not Gary
humans
Gygax.
for something nefarious. I don't know. I stopped at that point.
The concept, like I said, like we said about other games, the concept is interesting. They just don't quite have, at least the initial level design. They need like a tutorial or something in there, I think.
So, that wraps up our new releases for the week.
That hurts.
Game of the week.
We have a very interesting problem in Game of the Week. I almost just want to abstain. I almost just want to,
I would,
The only things I think we talked nice about just now was Grand Theft Fruit and Production Panic.
yeah.
I would give it to Protection Panic because it seemed more of a complete game.
Yeah. I will.
You could hold off and give 2 games next week.
Unfortunately, the database is designed that we have to pick one during the week.
And that sounds like an object of fail.
We didn't foresee this case when we did the database design. Because we're going to be able to get a page up some point in the future of games of the week.
We can leave that value null. There's no shame in it.
We've picked a game of the week every week this year. I mean, if we want to commit to having a true end of the year award ceremony and all that, we have to have played every game. That's what our commitment is this year.
Yes.
Fuck all if we do it next year. But this year, we committed to it, by God. This is just the week. I mean,
by next year,
we made it to July. We're halfway there.
We'll have played so many versions of each different genre of game, like, breakout games, Yawn, we will be so jaded.
We'll be actual game reviewers then.
Yes.
We will ascend to game reviewers. We will shit on everything. Our videos will become like
worse
Yahtzee.
Than we do now.
Yes, we'll become like Zero Punctuation and Yahtzee. If I'm not already there,
we will secretly hate Xbox Live Indie Games. We'll hate every single one of you.
I think the only difference between myself and Yahtzee is I don't have an animation department. That's really the separation at the moment. Production Panic, then. I think we're all in agreement.
Panic, yes.
Production Panic, congratulations. Game of the Week. Get some voice acting. I want to hear the bitch yell at me. That's really what I want in that game.
That sounds so messed up. Just to start up.
That's what she comes off as.
All she needs is a twinkle in the eye to signify she's the evil-ish character in the anime.
You can see it on the cover. I mean...
Oh, yeah, you can totally see it, but just,
Speaking of covers, I do love on Labyrinth, it's an actual photo of the back of a woman, but then you get in the game, and it's an approximation of her in the game. It's totally weird.
Yeah. It's not a horrible model. It's just it is kind of Uncanny Valley, but it's a chase cam, so you don't exactly get to see how uncanny.
So do we have anything for chat as we wrap this up?
Not saying one.
Have we had anything that we've missed along the way?
Well, no, not really.
I'm a little disappointing. Nobody asked me any questions. I thought that somebody would come up with something.
I did see your call for questions, but nobody can answer it.
They were all talking about whatever it was they were talking about earlier.
Stegs, I'm not sure what kind of questions you asked.
I'm not certain your question.
We have standards on this podcast.
No, we don't.
Can be
no, we don't.
We do.
They're low standards.
They're very low, and most of the time we meet them.
Yeah, see, poop hole pirates. That's And why can't I release getting my dick wet? We talked about that. That's called Don't Call Me Skyfish. You have to use some innuendo and direction, and then you can get it in there.
He fires bubbles.
I didn't figure that out till
they're waves, so they're wet. Oh my gosh! I've put things together about that game that someone that game needs to be on a watch list.
It can only get better from here. I think that's what we take from this. Andy, anything before we end? Anything you want to bring up? Obviously, Exacto Games.
No, Exacto. There is no C in it, though I've had to tell John to register the other domain because everybody thinks it's Exacto. There is no C in it.
Exacto knives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if he was still here, he would be able to explain. It's something to do with fraternity.
I mean, you get too close, and then maybe Exacto would come down on you.
It could be. Anyway, so final sum up. Progenitor is in playtest. I'd love some feedback from people. So those of you with accounts, go play it. And Sunburn rocks. The game wouldn't exist without it. And John does a great job with that. And for those of you who I say in the forums, use an engine. Stop trying to write your own. That still stands. I've been doing it for 8 months now, and I wouldn't do it any other way.
All right. I don't think I have any news on the site. Obviously, we have stats up and going. I'm having to manually clear out the I have a cache bug. Cache isn't clearing out, so when the stats update nightly, they don't update on the site. I've been manually clearing that out. So, but they have been running and collecting if you think your game is being targeted or downvoted, you can go there, you can download the stats, you can look yourself. What you're looking for your position on the top rated to have dropped, and you're looking for a rash of votes to come in. If you don't have those two, then it's just, other things at play. It could be errors. I mean, there's some weird numbers, looking at the stats that even I say, like, hey, yeah, that's weird. But there's been a lot of, like, my game dropped half a point. I think I'm being targeted. Like, no, you're not. You're just getting game ratings. You launched the game this week. You launched the game this week, so when you get new ratings and you only have 10, they change wildly as you get a couple. That's not manipulation. That's just getting votes out there. But there are still cases where you see that. So all the stats are public, so anybody can go download them. And I also put together those billboard charts, so you can kind of have some fun and see like who's moving up the list, who's moving down the list, that kind of thing on there. I do have a big announcement. I do have an announcement on GameMarx. We are going to start taking in and looking for other review writers. Obviously, these last couple months we've been very lax on written reviews. And that's still kind of important. I want to get written reviews up there because those get indexed, and we check out trials and do videos of the trials, but those aren't reviews. Those aren't proper reviews of a game, and so that's still kind of important that we do that. So we're gonna, now that we've accepted that there's no damn money to be made from this site. It's like we can just approach people like, hey, there's no money to make from the site, but if you would like to write reviews on GameMarx, we're not going to open it up and take user reviews. These are going to be reviews, staff writers, basically. So we'll open up, and I think we're already making some contacts. But if you're interested on that, just send us a link at contacts@GameMarx.com and send us a link to the reviews that you've been writing, whether you've been posting the reviews on forums, whether you've been reposting these reviews on, Andy dropped again, whether you've been posting these reviews on other websites that do user reviews. Just send us a link to the stuff that you've been writing. If you haven't been writing any reviews, we're not looking for you. Like, we're looking for people that have already been writing some reviews with that. And I have no problem with you continuing to post your reviews on your own website.
Concurrently.
We're not looking for excuses. It's your content. We can't offer you money. We have no money to offer you. So
I think the best we could do is maybe download codes.
We'll hook up with download codes as we get them. So we have quite a few. We do have quite a few backlog download codes.
And more coming in every day.
And some more exposure, because we were getting quite a bit of traffic. That is going up with that as well. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the podcast, and let's do this again in a week.